Monday, we looked at the depth surrounding the linebackers and the secondary. Tuesday, we're diving into the D-line.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Tuesday show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms, as always, apply. Happy Tuesday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, today we're going to get into your area of expertise, the defensive line for NC State. Yesterday, we talked about the linebackers and the secondary. A lot of the portal workings so far for NC State have revolved around those two groups. Do we feel that the D-line has been slightly neglected? I think there's a couple points to be made there. You do lose Davin Vann, your senior leader. You also lose Red Hibbler, although he was removed from the roster in September. So you're only losing two guys, but you are bringing back Trevally Price, Brandon Cleveland, and Isaiah Shirley, who are three of the guys that played the majority of the snaps. But behind those three guys, I think there's some questions about the depth.
I'm left with kind of the feeling of who's going to be your outside rushers, who are going to be your guys here. Because we talked about the bandit position, right, and how Trey and Dixon are probably going to fit into that slot. But then you look at the other side and you say, okay, you're going to need at least, 3 full-time guys. But for defensive line, because of the nature of the position, you cannot have 2 to 3 good defensive linemen. You need to come at this thing in waves. It needs to be like a drove of guys. Like, hey, after these first 3 sub out, we need 3 more that are damn good that can do the job as well. Because, again, think about it this way. Being a defensive lineman is like being a high-velocity pitcher. Normally, they have shorter pitch counts in general than guys who are control specialists, right? Like, that's just what that looks like. The nature of this position is that you're only going to get at max 30, maybe 35 snaps out of a guy. That's it. So if you're looking at offenses having 60 to 70, that means you need at least 2 full lines of players who can do it at a high level, which I'm a little concerned about. And I'm a little bit concerned about pass rush juice out of these guys. If you remove the bandits, who are the guys that bring the edge pass rush juice? Cleveland got plenty. Cleveland's got plenty. That's not really a problem for me. Shirley and Price, they've shown flashes, but who can consistently get home? Who can consistently be the guy? Now, the one thing that I will say about this group, against the run, I think they'll be phenomenal. I think this group, in terms of their ability to set an edge, maintain their gap, I think they'll be very good at that. I'm just a little concerned about, hey, 3rd and long, somebody's got to get home. The dog's got to hunt. And, if we're not bringing some exotic wild blitz, what are we doing to get home? Are we getting home with just a straight rush? Because while the exotic blitzes are cool, whenever you're doing those exotic blitzes, you are bringing guys out of coverage. That's just a fact of how that works. You would prefer to say, you know what? I can send 4 on a straight rush. I can send 4, maybe run a text game, an X game, a twist in the inside, and we'll be okay. We'll get into all that later. That's inside baseball. But in all seriousness, you want to be able to get home with 4. And I'm not sure if we have the type of defensive line that can do that at the moment.
Yeah, this is a very interesting group considering the new system that they'll be running with DJ Eliot. The hybrid 3-4, like we've already said so many times already, it's hell-bent on bringing an intense amount of pressure. Sometimes it's 4 down linemen, sometimes it's 3 and a bandit, sometimes it's 3 with mixed-up looks in blitz packages. When you're looking at who will likely be your main 3, we've already touched on them. Trevally Price is going to be on an end. Isaiah Shirley will likely be on an end. You're going to have Brandon Cleveland in the middle. You also have a guy like Chaz Wallace. Now, he was brought in this past offseason to be in the 2 deep behind Brandon Cleveland at nose. Chaz Wallace, as far as I know right now, is returning to NC State. He just recently had a tweet basically saying this is my last ride. So one would assume that he will be back with the Wolfpack. Out of the JUCO ranks is AJ Prim. He'll be technically considered in the 2025 recruitment class. So perhaps that is a viable option, maybe akin to a Red Hibbler in pass rush. That would be definitely needed. Justin Terrell was a redshirt freshman this year. Josh Alexander Felton was a redshirt freshman this year. He also had some playing time in that bowl game, if I remember correctly. Got some snaps against ECU, made some tackles as well, so perhaps he'll find himself in the 2 deep. But yeah, kind of circling back to the central point here, what is the 2 deep going to look like when we get into spring ball and then, later into the fall? I would hope that they're not done in the portal and they will probably go out and find maybe 1 to 2 more guys that can compete to be in this 2 deep. I don't want to say that I'm not confident in who we have, but in my personal opinion, it does seem to be a little bit thin. And perhaps with the new system, it won't matter as much and you're able to get home a lot more often. But when you're looking at Price, you're looking at Cleveland, and you're looking at Shirley as your main 3 guys, who else is going to be able to step up consistently, like Kenton was talking about, and provide that pressure? I don't know that we have the answer for that right now.
Yeah, and the reality is I have not watched enough of some of the recruits that we're bringing in to fully come up with an analysis there. But again, like we said about the defensive backfield and the linebackers, we'll reserve judgment through at least the spring game. We'll reserve judgment at least through then, because I think the beauty of a spring game, when you're running your base stuff, there's nowhere to hide, really. Like it's very, very rudimentary. Can you execute the little things? And one thing that you find about all the best players, they just do the little things at a high level of consistency.
Right.
That's all, and that's it. And so when Grayson and I saw the linebacker play last year and said this is going to be a problem, it wasn't because guys weren't able to, do Payton Wilson-esque stuff and run guys down 40 yards down the field. It was about very basic, hey, that's a dive. I'm pretty sure that's his gap. He went the other way. I don't think that's good. It's the same thing for defensive linemen. So we're going to treat the defensive line the same way in watching the spring game in terms of, hey, this is what we want to see. When you are asked to execute a simple assignment, which you will be, because again, it'll be mostly base stuff. It'll be mostly very rudimentary stuff. Can you execute it at a high level? Do you look like this is an FBS football player? Or are you going to have us scratching our heads saying, 5-win season incoming. Doran, you might be cooked, brother. What are we going to be saying coming out of this thing after watching D-line?
Yeah, that Payton Wilson analogy you just made there, unfortunately, and as transparently as I can possibly be here, I think that's where I stand. Coming into this past season, we had a sinking feeling that we were going to sorely miss having Payton Wilson out there. Well, of course, he won the Butkus Award, but you'd be able to feel a difference, and we did. I think in 2025, you're going to feel a difference of not having a guy like Davin Vann. And I think that's where my main concern lies is we were coming into the 23 season and the 24 season, and you knew, we got Davin Vann on the end. He will be a force for the entirety of this upcoming season. That's a guy you can trust and rely that he will be a leader on this defense. When you're looking at the current defensive line, I don't get that same feeling in any of these guys that we have, respectfully. I'm not trying to call anybody out, but that's just what it is.
I don't know. I don't know. I think Cleveland could have that type of year. Well, he's primed if he takes a step forward to be an absolute force on the interior. I think that he's the type of guy that can absolutely wreck game plans from the interior. But I do get you from the standpoint of on the edge.
Yeah.
Who's the guy? Who's your guy that becomes what Davin Vann was? And again, Davin Vann was special last year. I mean, what was it? 6 forced fumbles or something crazy like that?
I think it was 7. Yeah.
That young man, hey, brother, you deserve the number one. And Brad Holmes, I know the Lions are doing well, but you can never have too many good players. We did need a little pass rush juice after Aiden went down. Something to think about. Something to think. It's a little value. It's a little value in the second round.
Perhaps he can go up there and join Aleem McNeil in the ranks. As well. Coming up next, we're going to get into a whole lot of nothing, a whole lot of something. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first Tuesday sponsor is Game Time. The new 12-team college football playoff has been absolutely incredible to watch, and unfortunately, there's just one game left, and it's the national championship. If you're in the market for national championship tickets down in Atlanta, waste no more time and head on over to Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks, and makes getting tickets to all of your favorite live events easier than ever before. It filters out all of the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, and you won't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The curation of Game Time Picks makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it, they got it. Toggling the all-in pricing feature on the app will show your total upfront, so you receive zero surprises at checkout. And as always, you get that panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect upon arrival. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, and again, create an account and use redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Middle portion of our Tuesday show. Now time for a whole lot of nothing, a whole lot of something. 3 topics. We'll tell you exactly where we stand on them. And spoiler alert, they're all pretty nasty this week. Number 1, on 3, their latest team rankings for the transfer portal. NC State is dead last in the ACC, number 17 for transfer portal gets this offseason. Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
I would say a whole lot of something, the same way I would about a great class, because this is a problem. This is something that Doran has utilized to a high level to kind of keep himself above water and get things rolling in the right direction. And the portal class last season, there weren't too many other teams that had more optimism surrounding their portal class. The problem is the cornerstone of that class was at the quarterback position.
Right.
I can say to you comfortably, with our quarterback from last season retiring and now pursuing a career as a coach, things did not exactly go as planned there. So with that being said, I'm going to treat this class with the same amount of seriousness in terms of this is a whole lot of something. We're not getting quality guys out of the portal in terms of what the recruiting rankings are saying. And I know people are going to say, well, Ken, the recruiting rankings are always wrong. And, NC State always does a great job player development. Whoop-de-woo-woo-woo. Here's the only problem and pushback with that. The reality is, at some point in time, it doesn't matter how well you develop players. You have to have a certain foundation and base to work with. You have to have a certain amount of, hey, this guy played good football to work with before you get there.
I waffled back and forth a little bit on this one because my initial gut reaction is a whole lot of nothing. And Kenton kind of hinted at it there. A lot of times these portal class rankings are going to be heavily weighted on, did you take a quarterback or did you not take a quarterback? And also I would extend that out to like running backs, wide receivers. A lot of the skill offensive players have seemingly a lot more weight sometimes than like a defensive lineman or an offensive tackle, that sort of thing. So I think on that note, it'd be a whole lot of nothing because NC State, we didn't really have to go out and get any of that. We have our quarterback, we have our running backs, we have a multitude of wide receivers. The main focus for NC State was always that we were going to go get offensive linemen, some linebackers, and then anything else we need to fill in on the defense. So on the surface level, it was really never going to be a sexy transfer portal class for NC State this offseason, and that's fine because all they needed to do is go out and get what they needed. However, Clemson only has 3 commits, so I find it a bit odd that they would be higher than us. Maybe it's quality over quantity. I don't really know. To be honest with you, I also don't really care. These rankings, they don't mean a whole lot because, for example, NC State's transfer portal ranking last season was 18th, not in the conference, in the country, and we went 6 and 7. They don't always equate to overall team success. So it kind of is what it is. But I'll circle back to my main point. A lot of times, these things are going to be heavily weighted on, did you take a quarterback? So, for example, Miami took a quarterback. Florida State took a quarterback. Duke, quarterback. Syracuse, quarterback. Stanford, quarterback. Louisville, quarterback. Wake Forest, quarterback. Carolina, well, they took a quarterback, but I think it's going to be the freshman. Cal is going to have to take a quarterback. You get what I'm putting down here. All of these teams, almost all of them, are going to have to take a quarterback, and that's almost immediately going to rank them higher than us. So at the end of the day, I don't think it means a whole lot, but I do think there is some truth, though, that NC State's recruiting is not getting to the point where it needs to be if we're looking to turn a corner in the program. I think that is also true. So it's a whole lot of nothing, but there's some elements of a whole lot of something. Sorry, that's a little bit of a cop-out. Second one here, still football related. The 4 DBs that we discussed a lot here over the last couple weeks, Cisse, Cooley, Boykin, and Fitzgerald, all 4 of them have found their next homes. Cisse's going to South Carolina. Tamarcus Cooley's going to LSU. Devin Boykin's going to Indiana. And Bishop Fitzgerald is going to USC. That's Southern Cal. Kenton, what do you make of this? Because that's 2 SEC, 2 Big Ten, and all 4 of those are out of NC State's tax bracket.
Why are they?
Money.
I'm going to say
big money in the SEC and the Big Ten.
But that's what I'm going to say. It's a whole lot of something. Why? As much as I hate to say this, and I know, hey, I'm not telling anybody you're a bad fan if you don't donate. I get it. People can't give a ton of money. Okay. Why are we out of those teams' tax brackets? Some of them, hey, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, if you're in a place where that's your only professional team, sure. However, why can't we be in their tax bracket? So I'm going to say a whole lot of something, because it feels to me as if we're becoming a feeder team for some of the better schools, which is the dead last place that you want to be.
Right.
You never want to be a school that's like, hey, we're going to build up great players, and then they're going to go on and get a bag for real. You're playing against bag for real teams.
Yeah.
You're not in a conference. It would be different if we're talking Locked On Golden Hurricanes and we're talking Tulsa football, right? Locked On Mean Green and we're talking North Texas. Fine. You know, Locked On, Golden Eagles of Southern Miss. We are talking Locked On Wolfpack, because this is the NC State Wolfpack in the ACC. If you want to get to a conference championship, you're going to have to go through Florida State. You're going to have to go through Clemson. You're going to have to go through the Dirty Foot Club. You're going to have to go through Syracuse. You're going to have to go through a lot of schools. And granted, the first few were just schools that spent a ton of money. Louisville is another one that I can think of that they you know, when it comes time for that portal, they're going to find that bag. They're going to find that check. And so, you know, where I come from, we have a phrase, heavy check only. Okay, that means if there's an event where you want affluent people there, that's what you want. Well, guess what? The portal is becoming a heavy check only moment. And right now it's seeming like our checkbook is a little light in comparison with some of these schools. And again, I get it. It's Big Ten, it's SEC, it's all that, whatever, whoop-de-woo-woo-woo. I don't want to fall by the wayside and become a feeder. So I'm going to say a whole lot of something.
Yeah, I think it was Tim Beck, who was our previous offensive coordinator, now the head coach of Coastal Carolina. He said recently that at the end of the day, Coastal will always be a feeder program. It doesn't matter what they do, how bad they want to participate in NIL. The fact of the matter is Coastal will always be a program where their top talent will get poached every single year. NC State should not have that problem. And I'm not trying to put NC State on a pedestal that they don't belong, but the fact of the matter is this has been, not this year, but has been a consistent program. It has been a program worthy of respect in the ACC. Of course, not to the likes of Clemson and whoever else, but we're there. We compete at the very least. NC State is very, very far behind in the likes of NIL. And that's not to denigrate anything that Savage Wolves or Wolfpack have done, because they've done an outstanding job. But even all of the hard work they put in, it's still not enough. Because Clemson, hand over fist. Louisville, hand over fist. Florida State, hand over fist. SMU now in the conference, hand over fist. All of those schools are miles ahead of where NC State is in the NIL game. And it's going to take a massive, 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 one more time, massive effort for NC State to try and keep up and stay in that race. It's going to take everybody. It's going to take fans. It's going to take local businesses, probably, if they're able to get involved. It's going to take so much additional work for NC State to keep from being left behind, because it's only going to get worse, so to speak. The NIL game is still only getting started, as bad as that sounds to a lot of people hearing this right now. It's only going to get worse. The gaps are only going to widen even more. Plus, you have revenue sharing coming down the pipeline as well. So NC State, it just goes to show you they're so far behind. Like, look at Ohio State, for example. $20 million spent on their roster. And you can tell the difference when you watch an Ohio State game and an NC State game. And that hurts to say, but it's very much the truth. There's such a large gap, and NC State has a mountain to climb if they want to even consider, turning a corner for the program. You want to get 10 wins, you got to pay for 10 wins nowadays. You got to pay for a roster that can get you to 10 wins. And hopefully the coaching will help them get there as well. But NC State is far behind, and sadly, that is the reality of the situation. A whole lot of something. Last one here. This one is super nasty, and it's basketball related. In ACC men's basketball, all 17 other schools in the conference have at least one player that is above our leading rebounder. So, for example, Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, he averages 5.1 boards per game. Every single other school in the conference has at least one player that's higher than that. Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
Whole lot of something. And this is a whole lot of something, not just because of Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, but because of the entire team. Yeah. And I know some of you are hearing this like, Ken's voice just got a little elevated. The volume just cranked up a little bit. Let me tell you why this is so disappointing, because of the entire team. I'd be okay if everybody was at about, everybody who plays big minutes is at about 5-6 rebounds, right? We are the second worst rebounding team in the ACC.
Yeah.
So, Brandon Huntley-Hatfield going from 12 rebounds again, I am genuinely baffled by this. And when I say genuinely baffled, I mean I am literally dumbfounded by this, because some people would make the argument, well, he played a lot more at Louisville. Even if you parse out the numbers over an entire game, rebounds per minute and all those advanced analytics, that young man is struggling to clean any glass whatsoever compared to what he was doing last year.
Yeah.
And so now I'm not only looking at him, I'm looking at Keats. What the hell are you not doing? That Kenny damn Payne. Let me say it one more time. Kenny Payne. The man that was widely regarded as the worst basketball coach last year in all of major college basketball, could get out of him. What are you doing wrong? Whole lot of something. It's disappointing. It's sad. It's frustrating. It's disgusting. I'm done with it. A whole lot of something.
It is probably even more than a whole lot of something. I was dumbfounded when I came across this stat after I was searching through a gaggle of numbers on Tuesday. I was disgusted when I found out that this actually was true. There are 17 other schools. Every single other school in this conference has at least one player rebounding at a higher rate than our best rebounder. That is a problem, ladies and gentlemen. That's a problem. And it is actually one of the biggest problems that we posed coming into this season. I remember our biggest concerns were three-point shooting and rebounding. How are we doing? Middle of the season, I think that is probably two of the biggest concerns amongst many others. But rebounding was always going to be an Achilles heel, and here we are midpoint of the season. It is a major Achilles heel. Kenton just told you we are the second worst overall rebounding team in the entire conference. Not going to cut it. This is why I harp on it so often on this show. Before every game, seemingly. And when we talk about the keys before the game, or you see me tweet from the account, I talk about rebounding a lot. That's because it is this important. For NC State, I think that might be the single most important facet of this team for the rest of the season. If you cannot out-rebound folks, or at least be competitive in that margin, you are giving teams like Carolina and Duke and Wake Forest and Pitt and whoever else so many extra opportunities to beat you. And they will. Believe me, they will. If you give them extra life, they will find a way to beat you. That's what Texas did back in December. That's what Carolina just did to us on Saturday. Many, many, many other teams will take these same opportunities and run with it. If this team cannot rebound at least a little bit better for the rest of the season, no bueno, my friend. This, amongst many other things on this team, shooting, point guard play in general, ball handling, ball movement, if you cannot rebound at a higher rate, a lot of that even gets neutralized. It just won't even matter because you can't keep teams off the glass and they get more than one chance or 5 chances to get a bucket on you. It's a major problem. It's going to continue to be a major problem until it's cleaned up. This is definitely a whole lot of something. PU, this is one of the worst ones I think I've ever read for this segment. Awful. Coming up next, we're going to cleanse the palate a little bit. We're going to talk about something I don't think we've talked about it on here before because it really hasn't been in question for quite some time. Who is going to wear the number 1 jersey for NC State in 2025? We'll ponder this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second Tuesday sponsor is WayFair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little bit of TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into my routines. Whether you're tidying up, cleaning out, or you just want to give your space a new look to start the year, WayFair has everything you need all within your budget. Me personally, I'm currently looking for some furniture, and WayFair's huge selection makes it easier to find pieces that fit my style and budget. My favorite part, the free and hassle-free delivery, even for the larger items. WayFair's site is so easy to navigate that I'm able to find everything I need in no time flat. There's something for every style and every home, no matter your space or your budget. And WayFair makes it easier to tackle your New Year's home goals with endless inspiration for every space and decor style. Give your home the refresh it needs with WayFair. Head on over to wayfair.com right now. That's WayFair, WayFair, wayfair.com. WayFair, every style, every home. Last couple of minutes of our Tuesday show. Wanted to talk about something that we've never really had to talk about on this show or even for a while if you're an NC State football fan. Who is going to wear the number 1 jersey for NC State in 2025? Now, of course, the 1 jersey holds some weight at NC State, and ever since the 2015 season, Kenton was actually on the first team that ever did this. Coach Dorn will honor 1 player to wear the number 1 jersey, and this goes to a player that exhibits an elite work ethic and practice and training habits while also leading the teammates. And Dorn even said himself, this player doesn't uphold the standards, he pushes them higher, unquote. So since 2015, Dorn has had 6 players uphold this standard and wear the number 1 jersey. 2015 was safety Hakeem Jones. 2016 and 17 was Jalen Samuel. Shout out J-Sam. 2018, wide receiver Stephen Lewis. 2019, defensive end James Smith-Williams. 2020 to 2020, a 3-year holder, linebacker Isaiah Moore. Shout out Isaiah. And 2023 and 2024, most recently, defensive end Davin Vann. So we were talking about the defense this week. The number 1 jersey has been in the defense for the last 6 seasons in a row. Looking through this roster, it got me thinking, who's going to wear the number 1 jersey in 2025, Kenton?
My odds on betting favorite would be Sean Brown. That's the guy that I would most suspect to wear it. He's a guy, by the way that he plays the game with some reckless abandon. He's like a bigger version of Tanner Ingle, and he's not a safety, so he doesn't have as much space to build up momentum, but he is absolutely coming through thumping. I would think that he'd be the odds-on favorite, but, this is one of those things where you've got to see the little stuff that's happening. You've got to see the things behind the scenes. So it could go a multitude of ways. And by the way, even though it's primarily been held by defenders, an offensive guy could get it. So would I be super shocked to see potentially Hollywood Smothers pop out with that 1? I wouldn't be mad at that. I wouldn't be mad at that at all. I wouldn't hate that at all. especially in the backfield that seems to be loaded coming back next year. So, I look at this situation and I say there are multiple guys I could see rocking that number 1, but Sean Brown and Hollywood are probably my favorites at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with defense, especially. I think if anyone's going to wear it on the defense, it would more than likely be Sean Brown. I think maybe you could slot Caden Fordham into that conversation, but I think because he's injured, maybe he wouldn't get, I don't know, maybe that wouldn't make a difference at all. But Sean Brown would have not at all surprised me to be a very good selection for that number 1 jersey on defense. Offense, I do think is interesting. Would it be a wide receiver? Would it be a tight end? Maybe Justin Jolie. He's a very high character individual. He could very easily exhibit all those characteristics needed to wear this jersey. A tight end wearing number 1 would be a little bit strange. Tell me Hollywood Smothers wearing number 1 wouldn't make him look just that much faster. 1 is a fast number. You better be fast if you're on offense wearing number 1. Hollywood could go. I think it'd make him even faster. There's no science behind that, but I believe that to be true. No, it's interesting, though, to be on the offensive side, CJ Bailey, perhaps. But that's interesting because he's already wearing number 16, which is another number of importance. They wear the Russell Wilson patch on the shoulder blade there. So I wouldn't expect CJ to trade out 16 for 1. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that he'd be eligible for that either. But on offense, if anyone else were number 1, it's hard to say. I would lean toward just giving it to Sean Brown to be a leader of the defense and probably a captain in that, right? But it's an interesting conversation because we talk a lot about leadership in NC State football, and it's been a pillar of Dorn's teams, not just these past couple of years, but for the entirety of his tenure here in Raleigh. It's so important that this does get upheld in the correct way, in the same way that Bradley Chubb's number 9 is held at a special regard. And I remember Savion Jackson had to get special permission from Bradley. The 1 jersey at NC State, though, that is seemingly above all others, even 16, even 9. This one is a different air, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see Sean Brown wearing it in 2025. But we would love to hear y'all's thoughts. Is there someone that we're not thinking of that you think would make a great number 1? Maybe it's Hollywood. Maybe it's Sean Brown. Maybe it's the punter. I don't know. Maybe Boomkester will roll out in number 1. I think that'd be probably very weird, but you never know. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. Also, tell us about your thoughts on the depth of the defensive line as we discussed to lead this show on Tuesday. That'll do it for us here today on Tuesday. As always, mash that like button. Drop your comments in the comment box. Mash that subscribe button if you have not already. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Wednesday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.